me allowing myself to feel all of that stuff, it was like it was almost like it was a portal to the next level of me. Hey, what's up? I'm Jamie, your consciousness mentor, here to show you how to expand your consciousness, raise your vibration, and live free because you can have it all and you deserve to know how. In this video, I'm going to tell you how to navigate a panic attack while it's happening and how to move through it without feeling attached and identified so that you can integrate the lesson, move forward, and actually raise your frequency even higher after the panic attack. I'm going to tell you about a very recent experience that I had with this. It just happened a week ago on Memorial Day. And I promised I would tell you about it then, but I got a little sick and life happened and it just like slipped my mind. So I asked you yesterday if you still wanted to hear about it, and you said overwhelmingly yes. So that is what this video is all about. I'm going to keep it as brief as possible while still explaining everything in detail that happened to me that I was experiencing in the moment. And at the end of the video, make sure you stick around at the end because I'm going to tell you like the 3, maybe 4 steps that you can use yourself to move through a panic attack if that's something that you experience. Something that you need to understand. If you experience a panic attack, it does not mean anything about you. If you are a light worker, if you're a spiritual healer, if you do this work and you think, you're above having a panic attack, I'm here to tell you, you are not, because we are still human. And when there is pent up emotion in our bodies, whether we're aware of it or not, things are going to happen. You're going to feel. And when you're an empath, you feel things so much more deeply and intensely than others do. So your experience with anxiety is going to even feel heightened compared to someone who doesn't do this work, someone who's not committed to their personal growth and development. Now, of course, they're 2 very different experiences, but I know when this was happening to me, in my mind, one of the thoughts, and I'm going to explain what I mean by one of the thoughts that I had like repeatedly over and over in my head was like, does this mean that I'm going backwards? Like, have I regressed instead of, progressing? And it's just, that's not possible. That's something I tell my clients on like a daily basis. You can't go backwards. You can't regress. You can't reverse. In fact, if this does happen, it's just showing you old parts of you that are ready to be released. So anytime you experience something like this, like a panic attack, where you can't catch your breath, you're overwhelmed with emotions, it feels like you're going to die. I'm going to tell you the entire story, I promise. But when that happens, just allow it to be there. Like, don't fight it, because what you resist persists. So that's just one of the things that I wanted to kind of preface this video with, because it's not possible for you to regress. You can get stuck where you're at with like, if you're not willing to go through the blocks. But if a panic attack happens, it's actually kind of a beautiful thing, especially when you're committed to doing this work, because every time you're triggered, it's an opportunity to grow. And when it happens on such a massive scale and intense scale, like mine did, looking back, I can see very clearly that like that was a beautiful indication that I actually was up leveling. There's a common saying or phrase that in personal development and in the spiritual world, especially, there's always a breakdown before a breakthrough. And sometimes that breakdown might look like a panic attack. So let me tell you what happened. I am embarrassed to talk about this, but if you've been following me for any amount of time at all, you know that I have a very real phobia of bugs. Like, insane amounts of fear comes over my body. It's called entomophobia. If you've never heard of it, you can look it up, Google it, do a quick little search, and it'll even tell you like on the basic Wikipedia page that, I mean, it's like if you have a phobia, a legit phobia of anything, the fear that you feel is irrational for the experience that you're having. And I know that, like, when I see a bug and I feel that like something else takes over my body, it's like I lose all control. And I'm still like in my head, and I'm going to talk about that too. But my response and my like physical, visceral reaction, I lose all control. And that's exactly what happened. So last Monday morning, I woke up 5:30 a.m. Actually, when I say I woke up, I actually didn't sleep the night before. So that is a huge reason why my emotions were even like more heightened than normal. I've been having like a really hard time sleeping lately, and there are a myriad of reasons for that. I'm not going to explain why, but just know like the night before this happened, I didn't get a wink of sleep. So every morning I try to wake up at 5:30 every morning. Some days it doesn't happen, but obviously I didn't go to bed. So 5:30 hit and I was like, all right, I'm going to go upstairs and do my morning routine. So the first thing I do is I go into my bathroom and I pee like everybody else. And I don't know. I think I did have the lights on, but when you have to like pee really bad, you don't like look at the floor. So I went pee and I came back out into my like main bathroom area, and right on my floor, like oh my gosh, I see it so vividly in my mind. I'm going to try not to like relive the experience as I'm telling you, but hopefully I can do that successfully. Right in front of me, I see a huge mother effing centipede, a centipede of all bugs, like the most scary looking it was huge. It was at least, I'm not exaggerating, it was freaking enormous. And I had no time to even like get my bearings. I saw this bug, this huge bug, and my body immediately flies into like fight or flight. And it is very much wanting to flee, but I can't not kill the bug. And so, gosh, immediately my heart was pounding. I could hear it in my ears. I couldn't catch my breath. I was totally breathless. I was like shaking to the point that I like couldn't even like get a shoe to smash the damn thing with. Like it was a very intense experience. So as soon as I see this centipede, my immediate reaction is to get the hell out. I can't be around it. But I would not, like, I would have to sell my house. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but if I were to have left and not known where that thing went, I wouldn't have been able to. I'm still like walking around my house in shoes. I won't walk around barefoot. And this was a week ago. I wouldn't be able to go into my bathroom, let alone like sleep in my bedroom that's like, connected to my bathroom. I wouldn't be able to. So I knew in my mind, I'm like, I have to know that this thing is dead. So I'm freaking out, feeling like I'm dying. And immediately my first reaction, I'm screaming like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? I don't know what to do. And I'm heaving. And all of a sudden, like, that's when I just like, my body was just, I thought I was going to die. Like it felt like you would have thought that if you would have seen my reaction, you would have thought what I was looking at was a person standing on the other end of a gun waiting to just shoot me point blank. Like that was the level, and like the person was pulling the trigger. Like that was the level of fear and my reaction to seeing a bug in my bathroom, a centipede, a huge one, but it was a very traumatic experience. Now, mind you, little backstory, my PTSD, I do have I've been clinically diagnosed with PTSD. It's been in, recovery for several years now, but recently it was reactivated because of a couple of other things, physical like traumas to my body that it couldn't really like manage. So it was kind of triggered and the response became active again. So that's another reason why my immediate reaction was so intense and so, I don't even have a word to explain it. So what I did was, as soon as I figured out, okay, I have to kill this thing, the whole experience lasted that I was like fighting the centipede for lasted like maybe 3 to 5 minutes. But in my mind and body, it felt like it was 20 to 30. Like it felt like so long because I couldn't even like control my body. So what I did, I ran into my closet that's also like inside of my bathroom. It's kind of like an interesting setup. Like I walk into my bathroom, there's my bathtub, then like the shower, and then the sinks are on this side. And there's like kind of like a little hallway. And then there's the toilet. And then all the way like there are 2 closets. And so my shoes are in my big closet. And so I like run and I go in there and I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't know what shoe to use. Like I couldn't even like figure out which freaking shoe to grab because my mind like wasn't working. And I was like, do I use my slipper? Like all of these thoughts were just going through my mind. So eventually I probably was like a 15-second choice, but it felt like 5 minutes. I finally grabbed my like huge platform tennis shoes because I was like, I need to have the most distance between my hand and this, but I can't feel it. I can't touch. I can't. Like even looking at it is, I mean, obviously that's what triggered my panic attack. So I grabbed my like Fila platform tennis shoes and I go back and I'm so hesitant to even like go near it. Like so this thing is like crawling pretty fast. And I had to get to it because it was going in the corner and my shoe like wouldn't fit in the corner. And I'm shaking and I'm trying so hard to like smack this thing. And as this is all happening, I'm breathless, I'm sweating, I'm clammy, I'm hyperventilating. My whole body is like quivering, like shaking, quaking. Like I was literally like, I couldn't hit the damn thing. Like I was so off aim because I had like no motor skills. It was, and like I said, my heart was pounding and like not immediately, but after a few moments of experiencing that like breathlessness, hyperventilating and like feeling that much fear, I just became overwhelmed and just started bawling. Like I was sobbing my eyes out and just like screaming at this thing to like die and I need to kill it. Like, and I was like, oh my God, screaming, oh my God, I can't get it. And then it did eventually get into the corner and I couldn't get it. Then Winnie comes over because she's like, what the hell is like my mom freaking out about in there? And she like goes over to it and I was like, no, like, oh my God, like as if the centipede would kill Winnie. Like I had the same amount of fear for her that I had for myself. And she's just like wanting to play with it. It wouldn't have hurt her. But in my mind, I was like, it's going to kill you. Like, it's not like it was a scorpion or like freaking tarantula or anything of that nature. But in my mind, like it's the same thing. It could have been any bug, but the fact that it was a centipede made it like so much worse. So eventually I'm like, I continue to smack this thing. I finally hit it once or twice and it's still freaking moving. And then it goes up the wall. It was the whole experience. Like I said, it was probably like 5 minutes, felt like an eternity. And so I'm sobbing and I finally get the damn thing dead. And then after I kill it, I'm still like in that stress response. I'm still in that fight or flight response. And so now I want to explain to you what was going on in my mind in terms of my emotions and in terms of my thoughts, because the reason why I was able to kind of like navigate through that experience, like, so I don't want to say easily, but like I recovered from it pretty quickly. Whereas like when I had panic attacks before I even knew I had PTSD, it was like an all day experience. Like I thought I had to go to the ER kind of thing. Cause I thought it feels like you're dying. If you've ever had a real panic attack, it feels like you have no control over your body. It feels like you're either having a heart attack or you're suffocating or drowning or all of the above. And you don't know what the hell is going on. And so, um, once the centipede was eventually killed, which took way longer than it should have, but I had no control over my aim and I was shaking and the damn thing was like, it was just awful. So after that happened, I posted to my stories about it because I knew that this was a really good opportunity for me to like share that this is something that happens to literally everyone, no matter how much work you do, and to give yourself some grace if this is something that you struggle with. Because just because you do the work, you're not immune to emotions. And if you have like a legit fear, a legit phobia, and I have been trying to eradicate this fear for longer than I can even like describe, because I'm so embarrassed that I have this fear. It's humiliating. My reaction embarrasses me so much. And that was part of the emotion that was coming up. So after the 5 to maybe 7 minute experience, I was still crying and sobbing and like just trying to compose myself. And I finally like went upstairs and just journaled about it for like a long time, because I was like, okay, there's so much, like, why did so much come up? What the hell was like all of that? Like, why was that so much more intense than normal? Because like, I obviously am exposed to bugs, like they're part of life, but I haven't had that kind of a severe response in a really, really, really long time. So in my mind, I'm like, what the hell? So let me explain all of the things that I noticed were going through my mind and all of the emotions that came up. So while I'm feeling obviously the fear and like I'm going to die and the panic and the anxiety, I also felt, I already mentioned this, a huge amount of shame and embarrassment. The thoughts that were coming up in my head were like, I know that this is so irrational. It's a effing bug. Like, it is a stupid little bug. Why is this my reaction? Like, these are just the thoughts that are coming up in my head. And I have been in situations like this enough. And I do this work enough to know that like when things like this happen, it's for a reason. And so I just let everything come up. I didn't fight it. I didn't resist it. And I honestly didn't really have a choice. And I think part of the reason why I didn't have a choice was because I had been unconsciously like suppressing some emotions, including like anxiety and fear from experiences that I had had, like especially being in the Outer Banks. I vacation in the Outer Banks for 5 to 6, sometimes 7 weeks every summer. And there are so many spiders. And I think when I was there, I was like resisting feeling the anxiety. Like I wouldn't allow myself to like go there completely. So it was like pent up, if that makes sense. So I had no control really over what my body did. It was just like, this has to come out and it has to come out now. So I felt an immense amount of shame and embarrassment and humiliation. The thoughts were, the thoughts were like, this is so dumb. I know that it's irrational. I know that I shouldn't feel this way. Why do I feel this way? Why is this so much more intense than usual? These are all the thoughts that are going through my head. I also felt a huge amount of frustration and anger because I've been doing this work and I shouldn't still be this afraid. I shouldn't have this much fear in my body when I know fear is an illusion, when I know all of the things that I know. And so I'm angry. Like, how have I not had enough, practice and experience to be able to differentiate like truth from falsehood? And especially when it comes to something as simple as a bug. So I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed AF that this bug is in my house to begin with. I'm humiliated and ashamed. I'm guilty. I feel guilty because I'm killing like a part of like a living, breathing, like creation. Like I'm killing life. I'm killing, and I'm a loving person, like killing, and it doesn't come naturally to me. It's just even a bug. Like I know it sounds ridiculous, but I felt like guilty because, we're all one, we're all connected. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm killing this stupid thing, I felt guilty about it. And I felt obviously like really, really sad, like this feeling of sadness, like almost an overwhelming. That was kind of like the underlying of everything, of the shame, of the guilt, of the anger. Usually underneath anger and frustration is an immense amount of sadness. That's usually, if you like peel back the layers and you ask yourself the questions, why am I angry about this? And it's like the stages of anger, you end up realizing that it makes you sad, whatever it is. And so the thoughts, there are so many more thoughts that were coming up at once. And that's why this is taking me so long to explain like all the things that happened throughout this like 5-minute period. And this is also why it felt like so much longer, because so many things were happening at once. So I already mentioned the thoughts about murdering another, something that I'm connected to, the shame, the embarrassment. But a huge thing that came up for me was really like, in my mind, who the hell would ever want to be with someone that has this kind of a reaction to something so irrational? Like, no one, like, these were the thoughts and I know to separate myself from the thoughts. Remember, you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions. And that's like a huge key in what allowed me to like kind of move through this. I just was there, like having the experience, noticing the thoughts that were coming up without attaching or identifying myself to or with them. Because that's how you learn like what's active for you, and you can just then like start to rewire the limiting beliefs that come up. But the biggest thing that made me feel like the most emotionality and like the depression and like sadness that came with it was like, no wonder you're single and alone. And I was like, I shouldn't be having to kill this bug like by myself. Like there should be a man in my life doing this for me. And then I was like, but no wonder there isn't, because who would want to be with a psychopath like you? Like who would want to deal with something so ridiculous? Like even if there's like a freaking gnat or a flea or an ant, I have a meltdown because it's the fear that comes over my body. And I know it's irrational. I know that. And that's part of the frustration is I know that there is no reason for me to be afraid of it. And that's what also pisses me the F off, because I can't control my physical, visceral response. It is so deeply ingrained. And I've done so many, like I've done hypnosis. I've done so many like releasing meditations and visualizations and cord cutting and all the things. And it's like, the more that I try to eradicate it, the stronger and like worse that it gets. So all of the thoughts that came up, the biggest ones that had the deepest effect on me were the ones about me being single and alone. And like, no, who would ever want to be with you? Like, look at yourself. It's so embarrassing. You're sobbing, like literally sobbing and not able to catch your breath over a stupid centipede being in your bathroom. Like, what would you do if it was a snake? What would you do if it was actually something? And like, the thing is, I'm like afraid of snakes, but I don't have the same fear that I do when it's like, it's not even like I could face a lion and not feel the fear that I felt with the centipede. It doesn't make sense. And so I allowed all of those thoughts to kind of like play out. And I noticed obviously the major ones that came up, and they were the ones that hurt me the most and made me like cry the hardest, were definitely like, I should be beyond this. This is so stupid. That was like a common one, a huge, like repetitive thought. This is so stupid. And like, I'm going to be alone forever because this is so embarrassing. You are so embarrassing. Like, this is so ridiculous. You should be ashamed of yourself. No wonder no man like is in your life. Like who would want to, so those were the thoughts that were like the most painful when I realized that they were like so active. And so the emotionality that came flowing out, like, again, I just allowed myself to feel all of it and like be with it and notice, like, okay, what am I feeling? What's going on? Why? Like, because there's always a lesson in the trigger. It's just an opportunity for growth. And so I was fortunate enough to be present enough to acknowledge all the parts of me that were coming to the surface, because all those thoughts were not my, like, this version of me. Like, they don't belong to me now. They belong to old past versions of me. And so that's what you have to realize when you're in an experience like that. You're gonna notice like the thoughts that you have. You might be like, I thought I released this. I've done this healing. It's still a part, like you're still, all the old parts of you are still like in you, if that makes sense. Like there are a million infinite different versions of us that live like inside of us. It's, the concept is like inner child. I don't resonate with that term. So if you don't resonate with it, that's okay. Just know that like older versions of you that would have been, you know, they're still in you, is basically what I'm trying to say here. So I was able to acknowledge, like, okay, I know that this actually, isn't, none of this is the truth. Like the truth is, yes, this is stupid and I know it's irrational, but everything else that came up, like, no wonder you're alone. You're so embarrassing. You should be ashamed. Like, um, every other like stupid little thought that came up that were basically like self-deprecating and like hating on myself and telling me that I'm not good enough and no man would ever want to be with me. I recognize those thoughts because those are the limiting beliefs that spurred my eating disorder. So those are thoughts that have, like, your brain, when it goes into survival mode for when you're experiencing panic, that's a trauma, that's a stress. Your brain goes into fight or flight, and survival brain kicks in. And when that happens, your brain goes on autopilot and it reverts back to the most ingrained thoughts that have been there for the longest time. It doesn't matter if you haven't had that thought. And if you don't think that thought now, if it's not like a current thing, it's just what happens. It's how the brain is wired. So if you can understand that, then you're going to be golden, because you will be able to just notice and observe what's going on in your mind while also knowing the truth. And that was my saving grace. And the other saving grace was knowing that my emotions are not who I am. And that once I feel them, and if I allow myself to like fully feel them and let them like truly feel them to the fullest extent so that they can just like move through me, then I'll release them and recover from them faster. So that's exactly what I did. Now, I will say for the rest of the day, I was a little on edge. I went to my parents. My parents have like a really nice backyard with like a huge pool, and my whole extended family comes over. We have a nice, barbecue, kind of last family barbecue of the summer before they close the pool. And I was trying to be outside with everyone, but a bee flew in, like, it, like, I saw it like coming out of the corner of my eye, and I kind of like ducked into my mom was sitting next to me, and she was holding her, like, their dog. And so she didn't have any like free hands to swat it away. And I had like food in my, like a plate in my hand. So if I were to have like, I would have dropped, it would have been like a huge scene. So I'm just like, kind of like ducking into her, and I'm like screaming like, mom, mom. And I see this bug, this bee, and it flies in my ear and then in my face. And she was like, I can't, she was like, Jamie, I can't like move my arms. Like I'm holding the dog. And the same like panic and fear came over me. And it was in front of like my whole family. And like the tears started again. And I was like, that's it for me. I'm going to be inside if anyone needs me. So I just like did food prep and like cleaned up and like did stuff inside for the rest of the day. I was a little bit on edge, but again, I don't let those things define me, because what I've learned from having this stupid, irrational phobia is that it's just a part of who I am. And if I've learned anything from doing this work, it's that you have to accept every single part of you. And one thing, like this phobia has been something I've been resisting and rejecting and trying to tell myself I don't have for a long time. And again, I really think that's a major reason why it was so intense and a lot worse than like in previous experiences. Cause like normally I see a bug and I freak out and my reaction will be like, I've done this before. I'll call my sister-in-law or my brother who live like 2 seconds away and they'll like come and kill it for me. And I could have done that, but something in me, like I was very like tuned into my higher self. And I just knew that like this was something I had to experience and do myself. And I'm very grateful for the experience because I was able to see all of the thoughts and all of the emotions that like I don't know if I had been suppressing all of those emotions that came up and out, the shame, the embarrassment, the guilt, the anger, the frustration, the sadness. And again, too, like the time of year that it was, I think, and all the things that are going on in the world, being an empath, emotions are high to begin with. So, like, who knows how much of it was actually mine if I had been suppressing any? Who knows if it was just like the collective? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because I was able to be with the emotions, let them like flow through and experience them, and then they were gone. So, like thinking about it now, I don't the thoughts that came into my head and the feelings like this the emotions and like the sadness and the depression of like being alone and no one's ever going to love you. I don't think that like it's not a recurring thought in my head. It's not something that I'm still like lingering on about because I know it's not true because I'm a mother effing catch and anyone would be lucky to be with me. That's the truth because I'm freaking amazing. But like the old version of me would have been like hung on to that. That was actually like one of my identities. It was my victim mentality. That was like my claim to fame. And saying that sounds like ridiculous. Like, why would you want to have that as your claim to fame? But it was like my, what's the word that I don't know how to quite say this. It was like, it was my identity. It was what I identified as. And if I didn't have that like terrible experience and like be always the girl that was getting played by guys, if I didn't have that, I didn't know like who I was. I didn't know that there was like another option to choose, you know? But this version of me knows the truth. So like the thoughts that came up, they're not still in my mind. The emotions that I had, I'm not still feeling them. I'm not still carrying them around. Whereas before knowing this stuff, I would have been. And I would have like needed to go into like therapy and like figure out, you know, that's exactly what did happen before. So if you're still with me, I really appreciate you sticking around. This is a lot longer than I like intended it to be. I wanted it to be only like 15 minutes, but I really wanted to be able to describe everything in detail, like what I was feeling in every single moment and how it like launched me and propelled me forward. Because ever since that panic attack, it unlocked something in me that had been like blocked for a really long time. I was like, after that experience, I felt like so much lighter and higher, like vibrating so much higher than I have in a really long time. And ever since then, if you've been following me for a couple months, you know that it's been like really difficult since my PTSD has been active. It's been really difficult for me to like sustain a consistent workout schedule. And that's something that I've always done. Like that's just like for the last 10 plus years, that's just been like a part of my life. And so I wasn't able to like do that. I just didn't have the energy. And after the panic attack, it's been like I'm right back to where I was before and I feel amazing. And like even my body is lighter and like tighter. And I have this like my skin is like clearer, which is insane. It was almost like immediately clearer because what the reason why I was having like blemishes and stuff, I realized now was because I wasn't processing like those emotions that that needed to come out. And so once I let them out, it was like my body like released everything that it was holding on to. It was like a massive, and since that attack, the things that I've manifested into my life that I've been like wanting to manifest and like trying to manifest, which you don't try to manifest, you're just always manifesting. So that's a whole other video, but things that I've been like intentionally trying to like draw in and call in and manifest into my life for a very like several months, if not years, like came pretty much immediately after, a couple days after, maybe a week later, but it was like, that was me allowing myself to feel all of that stuff. It was like it was almost like it was a portal to the next level of me. And a lot, like I always have a coach. If you have a coach who doesn't have a coach, get another coach who does have a coach. One of my mentors, even actually both of them I have two. One's more business and one's more spiritual. I need both because I do both. They both have said to me, like, you're reaching like insane new levels. Like I'm just seeing it. I'm feeling it. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely like unlocked some massive codes that allowed me to like really accelerate and propel forward into like this next level of me. So, that's one of the many benefits of allowing yourself to feel, because if you don't, you're just going to continue to carry around those low vibrating emotions and they keep you low. You're not able to expand your consciousness. You're not able to raise your frequency. So the 4 steps that, it's more like 3 that I am going to give you to like move through a panic attack with, I want to say ease, but it's not going to feel easy when you're doing it. But just know that it's like the most graceful way and most efficient way to move through and navigate a panic attack while it's happening. The first step is to just be present with what's happening. Don't resist it, because what we resist grows in strength and power. So you want to allow whatever you're feeling to come up. Don't fight it. Don't push it down, because again, that's just going to make you vibrate even lower. And it's going to stick with you. What is this hair doing? It's going to stick with you a lot longer and keep you stuck a lot longer. So being present and allowing whatever is happening to just unfold and staying like kind of above the water, like allowing yourself to feel all the things without attaching yourself to it. So that step 2 is to be the observer and the experiencer at the same time. And this takes practice. This is why I assign like my luminescence clients, one of the first things that I teach them how to do and we work on like right out the gate is this exercise called noting. And it's like noting your thoughts, like being able to separate yourself from your thoughts while they're happening, like just taking note of what's going on in your brain while not believing in it, not identifying with it or attaching to it or believing it to be true. Just like let the thoughts kind of flow and come and just like see what's there with curiosity. Curiosity is like a huge part of all of that, like presence and curiosity. And then the third one, and this is all like a continuous kind of all at once experience, but feeling your emotions, like just letting them flow through you. If you have to cry. I did. I cried for like an hour after that even happened, because there was so much like locked inside of me. And that was the gateway to get it out. If you have to scream. If you have to yell. God knows I did all of those things. And then I moved my body afterwards, So being present with your thoughts, being present with your emotions without allowing yourself to be swallowed by them, to be consumed by them. Keep like a separation between the real you and what's going on in your brain. Because again, the things that are going on in your brain, it's just going on autopilot. It's not the current version of you that's thinking the things that you're noticing you're thinking. It's the older versions of you that automatically have been in your mind, like the neural pathways. It's just like the thought patterns that your brain goes to. And it might be like really old versions of you, like mine was. The thoughts that were coming up about me, like not being worthy of being in a relationship or having a man, those thoughts are like 3 million versions ago of me, 3 million versions of me ago. So those are really the three main components of being able to navigate. And then the last one is to integrate the experience. Like after you have this experience, immediately what I did, I went upstairs and I journaled until I felt like it was complete, until I got everything out of it. And I wrote down every thought that I noticed. I thought every emotion that I felt and why I thought I felt it and what I thought it meant and all the things. And then I wrote, and I intentionally like it was a spiritual practice really, is I released all of those like older versions of me again, I now release what all of this, it's no longer serving me. It's not in alignment with who I am or what I'm creating. And being really able to like take the experience as a learning opportunity to grow and expand and raise your frequency, so that the next time something like this happens, it's going to be even easier for you. It doesn't mean that you're not going to feel all the things. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have all of those thoughts. It just means that you know, and you have the tools to move through it, to be able to experience it while also staying like your head's above the water. So that's the whole story. That is my panic attack experience that happened on Memorial Day. And then it was so weird. Like the next day, I woke up and I had like the most intense, like ridiculous head cold that like kept me in bed all day. So this panic attack it released like all this gunk and like toxic crap and muck and shit that was like trapped in my body for God knows how long. I don't know. I really don't know, because my PTSD has been active for I don't know how long. So it's probably all associated with that. Everyone's experience is going to be different. But like I said, once I allowed myself to just feel all of those things, it like unlocked so many things and raised my vibration so much. Like my body had this like massive purge of emotionality, of like toxic, stuff in my skin, stuff in my body, whatever, like allergies or viruses or anything that might have been in, like it all like came out like all at once. So that's not always going to be your exact experience, but it can be. It all depends on what you believe. So my biggest advice when it comes to having a panic attack and feeling like you're going to die, you're going to have all of those thoughts. And like, I know this is the truth for everyone, because panic attacks like run in my family. Like my brother has severe anxiety, and I help him through a lot of panic attacks. And that's one, like your mind is just going so fast, you can't keep up with it. And it's like, what is happening? So that's my biggest piece of advice, is to just not get identified and swept up in believing all the thoughts that are going through your mind. Oh, okay. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave me a comment, let me know what you want to see more of. And that's it for today. I hope you have an amazing day. I'm Jamie, your consciousness mentor, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.